Okay, so this is the walkthrough of the processing side of the Glen stove project. As always, I apologize for filming my screen, but I don't know how you fancy people do it. Okay, this is all very, very straightforward. This is a very, very simple sketch. It's a pretty straightforward sketch. Import all the libraries import all the libraries you need to input. Import. All the Twitter shenanigans, serial, obviously, simple enough. This library is the speech, declare it, etc., etc. And the rest of this is pretty straightforward, just declaring variables. We all know what this is all about. Don't forget to, hey, I'm going to use a serial port, don't forget. Twitter shenanigans to fire up Twitter. Or the Twitter library, set some arrays, those are probably buffers. Your PIN number will appear here. I had to redact it so you don't know my PIN number. Some booleans I use for just my stuff. Alright, here's setup. Important. Set up your serial. A lot of guys, when you see demo code, they'll list all the ports and then call one by number. I know what port I'm using. It's 32. I just write it directly in there, for crying out loud. 9600 because I'm talking to a pickaxe. All my sends are going to end in carriage return. And they're actually going to start with a qualifier too. I like to sandwich my data so it stays lined up and clean. New instance of the voice. More getting Twitter fired up stuff there. Calling some Twitter routines here. Go ahead and try to connect. That'll go to the library. And this also is grabbing data from the files that were created during the setup process. It's got to zhink all those numbers in and make them all up and running. This is a timer setup I use. If minute is greater than 59 minus how long to show. This is a little chunk that I use to display things on the screen for a given amount of time, and then the minute. This command here, where you can get a hold of the minutes and seconds of the computer itself. This will come in again when I timestamp the tweets. Alright, so basically, if the current time, if the current minutes is the same as hold minute is my variable I'm using to know how often to tweet. So basically, if it's time to check the sensors and send it off, it's going to send capital N to the pickaxe in the little control box, okay? And then for debugging purposes, it's going to go ahead and tell me that it sent a request for data. That's N for need input, and then it'll timestamp it, you know, down there at the bottom of the IDE, just for debugging purposes. And then we reset the timer right here. So it'll tweet again in a given amount of time. New fire. This is all just stuff that has to deal with specifically dealing with Twitter connected to a stove. I don't know if that's applicable to you. Here's the serial grab. Here's the important stuff. Now, void serial event. The serial event, something happened. It's basically we sent the N to the pickaxe, so this is the data coming back from the pickaxe. Read the string of data, or read the stringify it until you get a carriage return. Okay, if the string's empty, if you read all of it, we got to start breaking up that string back into data again. So the reason this is called telemetry is because I cut and copied 95% of my code from other shit that I've written. Pardon me, other stuff that I've written. And this was used for navigation, so it's called telemetry. The string is broken up with colons as separators, and we're looking for a total packet length of 6 chunks of data. And they're going to be stuck in this array. The first little mailbox of the array, 0, that's going to be the qualifier. That's going to be a letter. And the rest of these are byte values that correspond to the 5 sensors that are being read. The first qualifier that comes in as a letter, if it, well, we'll just go through. An I relates to if I've hit, oh, I'm sorry, I relates to if the fire is hot or cold, and thus a variable is set, and the tweet is sent off with that if it has changed. Now, here is the actual sending the tweet. Here's the magic right here. Status, etc., etc. Twitter.update status. There's your magical command. Okay. Parentheses. There's a parentheses on that end over there as well, obviously. And then whatever you're putting in the parentheses. And then in those parentheses, you're going to build it just like you're going to build a string. So, like here, you've got, well, the equivalent of a variable plus a character in quotes plus the equivalent of a variable plus quotes, you know, plus, you know, or even here, like, you know, text, here's living room plus telemetry 1. That's the variable we got from the serial that was sent from the pickaxe. And so basically, it's, you know, there ain't nothing special here. Basically, this update shenanigans here, we're just building a string, putting a string together here, and it will get sent off. Oh, don't hit arrow keys. Where were we? Okay, there we go. TTS speak. This is the voice. If voice is true, then say it. TTS speak. That's a pretty simple library. It'll say anything you put in the quotes, and it will repeat the same tweet. And then here, catch, Twitter exception, and the status code, that right there. That, as I remember, if Twitter decides to puke on you after you've sent it this update status, I believe this is the routine that's going to catch that puke, or catch that burp, and deal with it. So I believe that's what that is, if I can remember. And then it just keeps going. Different qualifiers do different things. Like here's the A for added coal, S for shaken the stove. These all relate to those input buttons on the control panel. This is an N coming back from the pickaxe, so this is N for new fire. C means the stove went cold, pretty self-explanatory. Adjusted M for the motor. I've adjusted the little motor that opens and closes the windows. T for time, adjusted tweet time. And if any of these qualifiers come in, and it's not the qualifier that says, hey, the next 5 bytes are going to be temperature data, instead they're one of these qualifiers, then in that case, the preceding data will be used for there. So this telemetry 1 normally is a sensor reading, but if processing gets a T first, then it's going to use this for to store the time data, little chunk of data that I'm sending. And that's it. V for toggle the voice, etc., etc. And there's all the brackets at the bottom of the program. So that's really it. It's very, very simple after it's set up. I hope you watched the video where I showed you, as best I could, the Twitter API setup that puts all the little numbers you need in those little files to make all this work. But at the end of the day, this is really just a ping pong. I'm going to send you a character to a microcontroller, and the microcontroller is going to send 6 bytes of data back, and it's right there. And that is really it. Like I said, I'm trying to keep these instructables as universal as I can, showing you the individual chunks of how everything works. And hopefully you can assemble these in a way that is applicable to you. There you go. There's the processing side after the Twitter has been set up. Tick, click, click. Well, turn off, you little crazy video camera.